Alright, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to just be doing a quick team report over this team. It's okay, it needs fixes, but it got me to the top 100 on Showdown ladder, so I thought I would introduce it and give the team report on it. So I'll just send this replay and I'll go over the rundown. So this was the team that I used for Vancouver, and then I had a similar version for Indiana where I used Tornadus over Indeedee. I mean, the team started because I was having some trouble with certain teams. Like, for example, I was having trouble with TR was one thing, so I grabbed Trick Room and Prison Calyrex in order to help me with that matchup, and I liked that a lot. Originally, I paired it with Kyogre because I thought it would be good against Landorus and Ensign, and probably would have been, but I didn't have Indeedee at the time, so I went to Zacian because I liked the damage it was doing more and thought it was more reliable. Tornadus was used over Indeedee because Zacian and Calyrex were relatively fast, and I thought having Tailwind would be good in order to maintain speed control, but I realized it really didn't matter all that much, so I just decided to go with Indeedee instead because I like the pivot that I can get out of the redirection. You could also try Grimmsnarl too, but Indeedee's my personal favorite, especially with Venusaur, because I like how I can use Follow Me and Sleep Powder, which Grimm can't do. For example, you just saw him to replay, so I find that to be important. But Grimm's also good, for T-Wave, and it sets up Bulk, which would be really helpful for Zacian and whatnot. When it came to Garchomp, I liked Garchomp because Sun was popular. When I added it, it's not really used anymore at all, but it was good at outspeeding Charizard, and with the Calyrex I had Unnerve, so I could hit Charizard through the Charty Berry, which Chongjun, I believe his name was using with his team, and then it also hits through the Shuka Berry Ensign, which is extremely popular regardless of Sun or not, so that's where I ended up going. And it's also good at hitting Zacian. The spread I have lives majority of Behemoth Blades. I mean, if it's max attack Adamant or something, then it probably won't. I'm pretty sure it lives a Jolly... It always lives Jolly 252 Behemoth Blade, and it should live 164 Adamant Behemoth Blade as well with the spread that I'll be getting into later. Venusaur, also good into Sun. It's good against just bringing into Groudon teams, especially if I have Indeedee. I can just redirect hits, and then Venusaur can spam Sleep Powder, and it definitely deters the Dynamax if they want to try running on me, which is helpful. Gastro was good, and also another thing about Venusaur, it's also good into the Kyogre matchups because it hits Kyogre well and pretty much anything. Mostly anything that's paired with it. I thought it was useful. And also, with Trick Room, no one expects Trick Room on the Calyrex, so if I wanted to, I could use that against the opponent, and then I could have a speed advantage over them, because Kyogre teams I run with Tailwind more often than not, except there's that one person's team with Grimmsnarl and Zapdos, and that one's different. As far as Gastrodon goes, it just further helps against the Kyogre matchup. Rillaboom's popular, so it's not quite helpful. It was helpful for a solid period, but it's not as good anymore. I would definitely change it for something like Incineroar because it's good against Calyrex Ice, and it's very good against Zacian, which is super common. I would rather have Incin for Zacian, and also for Calyrex because Calyrex can't really hit Incineroar. Incineroar is just a goated Pokemon. I was wanting to bring it to Vancouver. I didn't quite have the time for it, and I also basically just forgot, so that's basically how that went. I think my result would have been better at Vancouver if I ended up going with Incineroar. What happened was I lost round 1, I lost game 3, I won round 2, and then I lost round 3, which went into game 3, but my opponent in round 3 ended up making it to the finals in Vancouver, so I mean, that's pretty solid. And then for Indiana with the Tornadus, I was on the verge of making points. I made it to round 8, but I was like at 4-3. Well, I was at 4-3, so not the greatest position to be in, of course, but if I won the next 2, then I would have got points. What happened was I ended up hitting myself in confusion because they landed a Hurricane on me with their Charizard into my Garchomp, and that definitely caused me a problem because I needed to hit an attack off them, and if I hit it, then I would have beat them 2-0, but it went into game 3 and I couldn't clutch it out because I made a wrong play at the end. Happens, and there's no way to determine if I would have won or lost round 9 when I made it in, given that I beat that opponent, but it is what it is. It's not like I could have done any more tournaments anyways, because all of them capped so quickly, it was crazy. And also, I can't do NAIC either. I was thinking maybe, but I'm going to the military for boot camp, which I will do a quick announcement on that because it's going to affect just how content gets put out for the next month and a half, I would say. Next 2 months and a half, I would say, my bad. But there's no point of me really trying, since the only tournaments I could participate in were Vancouver and Indiana, so I basically just had fun, is what it is. But still, top 100. I don't have it on ladder because this was a little while ago. It was 3 weeks if you can't see, but my ladder ranking was 18-14, and that hit me at 88 as my peak. It was a fun team, but I still needed to make corrections to it. I'll go into the spreads now, and then we can go into adjustments I would make later. So hold on. Alright, so Venusaur, really simple spread. It used to be at 108 because of the Life Orb chip number, but I needed it max in speed because I wanted to make sure to not get outsped by max speed Venu. I mean, it's just worth it going for the speed tie rather than investing it in a little extra bulk. The 164 is really significant with Life Orb Venusaur because you're guaranteed to KO 252 HP Zacian with 4 special defense if they have something like Weather Ball. If you have Weather Ball on your Venusaur, I know that sounds dumb because I don't have Sun on the team, but since Renia Sun was popular when this team was constructed, that's why I calced for it. And then one suggestion I would argue is you could go for Torkoal over this Gastrodon because you have Trick Room with the Calyrex, and you could use that with Follow Me, Trick Room stuff, and then you could sweep with like a Torkoal with Eruption. Since it's so slow, you should be hitting a lot of stuff pretty damn hard, so that's pretty good. And then other moves, I just liked Earth Power. It's always good in my opinion. I value ground coverage over my Poison Stab. It's okay, I guess, if I wanted to hit Rillaboom. However, I already do a good amount of damage with the Weather Ball, and I usually don't have Venusaur in a 1v1 with Rillaboom, so it didn't feel really worth it. And then Leaf Storm I always value over Frenzy Plant because I typically do have Venusaur outside of max. I know people like to max it, and then it usually is done afterwards, but to me, I like the Leaf Storm rather than having Frenzy Plant being stuck on the field, if that makes sense. And then that's basically the spread. Then, I mean, I could say Sleep Powder. You don't necessarily need Sleep Powder, but I always value it, especially if the Indeedee with the Follow Me, you block the Fake Out with the Psychic Terrain, and then you direct all damage to a different target, and I find that to be very useful. So that's why Sleep Powder is over something like Protect. And we'll go on to Indeedee. Spread's very basic, but what it does is 176 in case I face a Rillaboom and Indeedee's on the field, then I get extra terrain recovery because it's multiple of 16. Multiples of 16 have slightly more HP recovery than things without without multiples of 16. I ran off a little bit there, but basically multiples of 16 give you a slight extra bit of HP, and I find that to be valuable because any tiny detail goes a very long way, trust me. And then the defense is really simple. It just helps live Zacian Behemoth Blades. It lives a good majority of them. It won't live a max attack Adamant, I believe it was, Zacian, but I believe it has a chance of living it. So I mean, Indeedee's just really bulky, and since Trick Room goes up, I like having the safety goggles because I can Follow Me, and then Amoonguss is basically useless because it can't Spore Me, and it basically can only do Pollen Puff, but Indeedee can at least take one of those. I'd imagine it could take 2 even, but I'm not going to say that for certain because I didn't do a calc on that. If you don't think you're going to have to deal with Trick Room, or you don't think a D is going to need to be in Trick Room, and I would recommend Psychic Seed much more. Shadow Ball is really good in my opinion, but people like Protect. I don't think Protect's useful at all for NDD because, I mean, it's basically just a punching bag. I don't feel like anyone's going to intentionally target NDD, so I just don't see the point of having Protect, so I would rather have a coverage move. I've used Mystical Fire in the past, and that was really helpful in Series 9. Shadow Ball got me a good result in Series 11, and then I have seen people do good results with Heal Pulse, but personally my favorite would be either Shadow Ball or Mystical Fire. In this current format, I would say Shadow Ball because of how common Shadow Rex is. Nothing too significant there, but I thought it was good. And then we'll go into Garchomp next. So the adjustment I would give for this is, since Rinneasun isn't common anymore, I would just say go for Landorus now, because you can use Lumberry, you have your Swords Dance and whatnot that you can use, and you have more attacking power, you have less speed, but because Charizard isn't really used anymore, I think the Intimidate is going to serve you better in this format. But spread's relatively simple. You live Behemoth Blade from Zacian, and you outspeed Charizard, and with, like I said, with the Calyrex, you can bypass the berries that Incident Charizard would hold, and you also OHKO Zacian with the Max Quake, and then Swords Dance is just if you think they're going to try cycling Intimidate on you, it's just good to constantly spam Swords Dance and just mess with them. Again, Landorus I believe is better though now, especially with Max Airstream. I mean, it's just good to get that speed advantage, so would definitely recommend Landorus now, and also Landorus can live Behemoth Blade too. Even when Zacian isn't intimidated, I know there's a spread that somebody had that accomplished that, so I think it's worth it. And there's nothing more special to say about it. Stomping Tantrum's just more reliable than Earthquake. I don't like hitting my allies, and also the damage boost if they try to Protect, for example, or they swap in on a Flying Mon, and I get damage boost following turn. Pretty simple. And we'll go into the next one. Calyrex I think is really nice. The Imprisoned Trick Room is very good because it definitely lets my other Pokemon run wild while they try to kill the Calyrex. Even if it's obvious, I know for a fact that they can't get Trick Room up for a turn, and I like that assurance a lot because they're forced into targeting it, and if they have to double into my Calyrex, which is relatively frail, I can at least just abuse Sleep Powder or max my Venusaur, or I could set up Swords Dance with Garchomp, for example, just depending on the situation, so I definitely stand the Trick Room and Prison Calyrex. You only need Astral Barrage on Calyrex. I could see Energy Ball being good too for Ogre, Groudon, and Gastro, so you could do Energy Ball if you want, but I like Will-O-Wisp because with the Unnerve you bypass the Lumberries that people can hold on Landorus, for example, so that can help a lot. And also being able to outspeed a Zacian and burning it is also good in order to support my Venusaur. And it could also support Garchomp too, because it takes it would take 3 hits to KO my Garchomp, not 2 like it usually would. So I just find that to be useful. You obviously want to go Timid because you want to outspeed opposing Zacian, but also you want to make sure you outspeed the Calyrex. Always go max Calyrex in my opinion. Well, if you wanted to, I know Hamster Mania had this EUIC team where he had some bulk on his Calyrex. I think he had his Calyrex's HP 190 something, I believe. So that could be used too if you want to make calcs for a Dynamaxed Calyrex, for example, and that could be helpful. But I like the Max personally, but I can definitely see you investing a little bit of bulk and then getting rid of some of the special attack if you wanted to. Nothing too big. I feel like Calyrex is good to stay, but you could also replace it with Groudon if you wanted to in order to support Venusaur if you want Venusaur, or you could get rid of Venusaur and swap that out with Rillaboom. I like Venusaur though, I think it's reliable, but other people find Rillaboom to be more reliable. It's up to preference. And we'll go with the next Pokemon now, being Zacian. Zacian's really simple, but the spread definitely needs to be corrected. It's just for 3 attack Zacian with Protect, you could do different things. I know some people like running Substitute on Berzacian over Play Rough, and then other people can run Imprison over Protect on Berzacian and go max speed Jolly, for example, and that's pretty good on neutering Zacian, actually. So that's definitely worth a try. I'll go over what the spread does real quick. So you live P-Blades from Groudon. I believe it was 252 Adamant P-Blades that I calced for on this Groudon that you're going to be able to live. Or it's either that or you have only a 6% chance of meeting O-Code. I liked 164 specifically because while, for example, 231 is the bump number, or 156 makes a bump number happen, I like this more because if you're getting a 1.5 attack boost, I would rather have my Zacian's attack on the... Hold on. I'd rather have Zacian's attack to be an even number because I want to be getting a little bit extra, for example, with 164 times 1.5 versus... It's 164, right? I'm not crazy. My bad. Hold on. It's 232. This versus this. So, because, you know, but with a 0.5 number, whatever decimal you get, even if it's 0.9, it's always going to truncate down. So having 2 extra attack points simply just by having an even number on your attack stat, I think is useful, which is why I like having even attack on my Zacian. Nothing too crazy. And then with the 60 special defense, I believe I calced it to live a Mystic Water 252 Water Spout from Kyogre. It could have just been 252 Mystic, it could have just been 252 Water Spout from Timid Kyogre, and this was in Rain. But it's not worth it. I value speed so much more now, especially because speed ties are just way too common when I'm facing, not speed ties, being outsped by other Zacian is huge in this format. Just go for fast Zacian. If, like, sacrifice bulk if you want to, you could even sacrifice attack. That would be more worth it, honestly, getting rid of some of this attack and investing it in some speed. In future formats, for example, when Gen 9 comes out and then we get the Legend format for that year, I'm definitely going to be putting less attack on my Zacian and putting more speed on because it's more valuable. So lesson learned there. But what I would recommend right now is I would go 189 on your Zacian because you outspeed Cinderace, and I see it enough to where I feel like that's worthwhile. This only outspeeds Thunders, so that's the difference that I would be making. And I feel like that's it in regards to Zacian. If you don't go 189 to outspeed Cinderace, then you could try just a Jolly set and then go really bulky on it, and I think that might be more worthwhile. I feel like Jolly Zacian might be the way to go, but just invest in a relatively bulky Zacian, a bulky but fast Zacian, because you're still going to do a shit ton of damage with it. And that's basically it. And one other thing with Zacian, if you want to, I don't know how common the dragons are right now. Maybe you try Wild Charge for hitting Ogre. That might be worthwhile, because I know Ogre's more common than the Dragon ones, and I think it might be worth it, actually. And that's about it in Zacian. And then last one, Gastrodon. You could replace this with either Ensign or Torkoal. If you go with Ensign, definitely do Shuka Berry in my opinion, and if you go Torkoal, either do Shuka, Citrus, or Charcoal. Yeah, with Eruption, definitely want Eruption because you want to be hitting the Mungus for a lot of damage, as well as Zacian, which is good against Trick Room teams, and just in general because it's pretty fast. Gastro, what I calced it for is, I originally had it as a Rindo Berry Gastrodon, so what this calc did is I lived a Grassy Glide from Rillaboom if they were 252 Adamant, if I recall correctly, and we didn't have a boosting item, so I thought that was useful, but I decided to go Citrus because I could always just burn for Rillaboom with Calyrex. And another thing about this calc is I believed I lived 2 Sacred Swords from Zacian most of the time, which I also found was helpful because if I can yawn the Zacian and then hit it with 2 Earth Powers, then I win, because I'm pretty sure this 2-hit KOs Zacian. But that's what the spread did, but definitely Ensign now. I mean, Ensign, you just have to run it in this format, in my opinion. It's too good not to, especially when Calyrex and Zacian are as common as they are, you may as well. You know what, actually, while we're on the topic of instant items, you could try running Focus Sash Instant, because when you live the water spouts from Kyogre, and that could be worthwhile. And since Calyrex is common and that can be paired with Unnerf, for example, maybe it's not worth running Shuka all the time, so that would be my secondary suggestion on Focus Sash Instant. I say Throat Chop and Flare Blitz. And that would be it in terms of the instant. Parting Shot Fake Out as well, obviously standard moveset, but you know, is what it is. I might correct this team and I might ladder for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to be doing this team report and being done with it. So hopefully you enjoyed the team report, and I will see you in the future with more Pokemon content whenever that will be. It's just because, like I said, I'm going to be going into the military shortly, and I'm not sure if I want to be having content scheduled for when I am in boot camp. But after boot camp, I'm going to be in school, if that makes sense. I'll go into more detail in the video, and I should be able to make more Pokemon content from there, basically. So I'll end it there. Hopefully you found this content to be useful. Leave a like, ideally subscribe, and I will catch you later. Peace.